Rena had been sick ever since that day, and she hadn't been able to join in on club activities as often since. Yes, so much for those happy times returning, eh?
Yeah, I still feel feverish.
You do, huh? That's a pity. Just like, the whole lead up to, like, Rena end up killing Rina and Teppei. It's like, felt like that's the whole arc leading up to that. But no, that's just the fucking halfway point. Just like, okay, now we're moving on to the second act. That was just Act 1. Act 2 is where it's at, where shit gets even more real as it progresses. Hey, Rena, why don't you just try and play with us today? I think you'll feel a lot better if you blow off some steam with us. And again, we keep going from character's perspective to, well, come to think of it, did they do that in the question arcs at all? I mean, it was always like Keiichi's, or in the case of Matsubushi, Akisaki's perspective, there's always one single protagonist's perspective. Any other perspective was usually reserved for tips. But this time around, we've got, like, Rena and Keiichi as both protagonists, so it's from their perspectives. Keep switching between the two. But we also saw from Ooishi's perspective, which I don't think we've ever seen outside of tips, I don't think. Maybe we have and I just can't remember, but feels that way. So that's kind of interesting, really. You got this old man's agreement.
Do you think so, do you? Sometimes resting too much is bad for you.
They're quite correct. All illness comes from the mind, don't you know? Everybody had suspected for a while that Rena isn't really sick, at least physically. It's just that many things happened to her at once. She caught a mental cold. You know what? That's one thing. It's like, I mean, this is even further back, the 80s and all. But in Japan, when it comes to mental health, there seems to be an even bigger stigma than here in the West, really, doesn't it? It's just like, I don't know. So it must be even worse to have, like, a mental illness in Japan than you would in the West. Just like, and even in here in the West, it's stigmatized, It's just like I have depression and anxiety. I can, like, occasionally talk about my anxiety a bit, and to an extent my depression. But I just feel like there's such a stigma attached to it, and just like, whenever I think of, like, how it is in Japan like that, it always seems like it kind of has that thing where it's just like, family members will just be like, No, there's nothing wrong with my child. I will simply not allow you to get help for it because there is nothing wrong with you. I don't know to what extent, but still, it feels like they have a different approach. It's interesting, really. Like, not the worst of the worst when it comes to, dealing with mental health. There are countries that are still more or less kind of dark ages when it comes to mental health. But still, mental health, man. So I thought she would get better once she played with us, just like we used to. Seemed like Rena was aware of that too. You know what? A thing about, like, anxiety is like, when Sudoku said something, what did she say? Yeah. Man, that dialogue's quite a bit away. And it all comes from the mind. Well, that's not actually true, Sudoku. But it just made me think, anxiety can actually cause symptoms of other illnesses. It's freaking weird how it can do that. It's like, anxiety can trick you into feeling like you're, like, really physically ill. It's a strange thing. It seemed like Rena was aware of that too. She knew that she had to get out of her state of depression soon. She wanted to get better and she wanted to have fun again every day. Depression's a similar kind of thing. It can make you feel like so mind-numbingly low. It's just, ugh.
Okay, I'll do it.
Great. That's the spirit and stuff. Considering the fact that Rena is still pardon me, recovering from her illness, let's play a tabletop game today. Let me see. Mia started rummaging through her locker, humming to herself. She took one game after another from the locker and put them aside. That locker definitely didn't obey the laws of physics. It was like an RPG inventory system. The amount of games she took out from the locker was more than what it could physically hold. Oh, I forgot about this one. Let's try this. Today we'll be playing this detective game. I was just freaking thinking that. I was thinking more specifically Cluedo, but that is a detective game really, isn't it? Just like, and they had the ominous sound effect as well. Just like, shh. Oh, what's that? Sounds interesting.
Well, this is a game where you guess the culprit, the murder weapon, and the scene of the crime. It's a game where you use your brain.
It's like, yeah, perfect game to come up with me on. It's like, oh yeah, only a few days removed from, you know, helping Rena dispose of the bodies. It's like, okay, let's play a game that's about, you know, finding the culprit of a murder.
You'll pick it up as you play. All you need to do is to note down the information you have. Oh, in other words, you need to learn the trick of note-taking. This is a game for intelligent people like myself.
The rules don't seem that difficult. In short, it's a game where you send out the cards each by holes in order to try and reason out the identity of the cards first drawn out of the deck. There are plenty of games in different formats where you try to identify something hidden in the least number of steps. This one just happens to be a competitive one of those. The key to winning this game would be how well you can organize your information. We usually like to play athletic games so that we can run around a lot, but in our club you have to excel both academically and athletically. Alright, this is gonna be great. Let's play! Rena, do you remember how we still haven't decided the winner of the water gun battle? I'm going to settle it today once and for all.
Oh, are you? Then I'm not going to go easy on you. If Rena's getting serious, I'll have to get serious too.
Yes, indeed. Since that water gun battle, I have reevaluated Keiichi-san and Rena-san. I'm going to be merciless today. Ha 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 ha! This is getting exciting. This old man's been waiting for everyone to get this fired up. Excellent. Let's do this. Dramatic close-up. Are you ready? I did it with a knife in the library.
Okay, my turn. Keiichi-kun did it with poison in the hall.
My turn. Mion did it with a pistol in the lounge. Why didn't you get a dramatic zoom? You're holding the pistol, aren't you? You're bluffing.
I think I know the suspect in the murder weapon. I've narrowed the scene of the crime down to 2. Oh, you're good, Rika-chan. I've narrowed the suspect down to 2, but it's hard to pin down which one it is.
I'll give you a tip. There's always a hint in the questions the other player asks you. You figure it out and you can even solve the whole mystery by the order of the cards the other put down on the table. I see. Damn it, I underestimated the depth of this game. That's the whole point, isn't it? It's like you just ask the other players like questions, but you try not to give away that you're asking like about specific cards that you don't clearly have. Because if you're asking for about a specific thing, then that kind of gives the impression you don't have that card, and it kind of narrows down what cards you might have a bit. Oh no, my notes are such a mess, I can't even read my own handwriting. Once you acquire the skill of note-taking, you'll have a 70% chance to win this game. But even a 70% chance won't be enough to defeat me. I kind of knew I didn't stand a chance of winning this game, but I gradually started picking it up. Rena seemed to be getting her energy back as she played along. It was the right decision to force her to play with us today. While we were in the middle of the game, Chie-Sensei came into the classroom. Man, you look like you're having fun. Anyway, it's Ryuga-san here. Of course! In fact, that is a good one now, right there. This is the answer to Onikakushi, after all. And it feels fitting that you have this kind of thing, isn't it? If you remember Onikakushi, like when Keiichi found out about what all the shit from Ooishi and all that, it happened when they were playing a game. And like, Chie, who didn't have a port at that time, came in to say, hey, someone waiting out for you. So this is clearly where that's going.
Oh?
You have a visitor. So stop the music. Everyone looked puzzled, because we know where it's going. We didn't back in Onikakushi, because it's the first one. Well, I knew, because I've already read them before, but you get the idea. This time we know where this is going. Or do we? Parents sometimes showed up at school for some reason, but Chie-Sensei never called them visitors. It's rare to have a visitor at school.
But we don't get to see what happens in the game.
Or maybe we do.
I wonder who it is. Well, I have to go. You can continue without me. Without me.
And left the classroom at a run. What should we do? Should we wait for her? Well, we don't know how long it's going to take. Rena told us we could continue, so let's do that. Yeah! We're gonna switch to Rena's perspective. Yep, around the entrance, the glaring sun and a cool shade made for a clear contrast. Yep, it's Oyashiro! An old man who's held his jacket on his arm was waiting for me. He looked like he was overheating and his tie was limp. Well, he's always got his jacket on his arm, really, doesn't he? Just like, that's just my character portrait, though. Are you Ryuga-san? Rena Ryuga-san. Oh, that's her full name. Let's see if he has kanji. Yes, it does. So this is clearly her real name here, Rena. Because like in Japanese they have it last name first, don't they? Like, despite the fact in English he said, are you Rena Ryuga-san? But in Japanese it'd be Rena-san. Ryuga-san desu ka? That one's easy enough. That's always used in a kind of question way, ended with ka, but I always see like desu ka. Or desuka if you want to emphasize on the oo. But I don't really, this just feels more like des, just sounds more natural. Ever since Rina called me Rena, I've hated that name more than ever. Because of that, I didn't have a good first impression of this man.
Yes, that's me. May I ask who you are?
My car has air conditioning, so why don't we move this into there? Aren't you hot out here? You know, Ooishi. Just like, you know what, it's like, it's one of those things, you know. It just sounds suspicious. It's like, oh, this strange middle-aged man comes to the school and asks you to come into his car to discuss something. That's not how you're supposed to freaking just like not sound suspicious, Ooishi. He ignored my question and started walking towards the car parked in front of the school gates. If he wanted to talk about something normally, he would have used the teacher's office. But he wanted to talk in his car instead. I couldn't help but feel suspicious. Chie-Sensei let him see me, though. That meant he wasn't a suspicious individual as far as she was concerned. Who was he? Wait, what? Tell me, in the whole time here, Rena's not even ran into Ooishi once? She's lived there for a whole year. Did she not bump into him at the previous year's Watanagashi festival or anything? I don't bite, you know. Please, this way. He called out to me while opening the rear door. Is he a policeman? Did the police find out that I killed those two? I felt anxious all of a sudden. was just what they called a voluntary interview. I didn't want to go into that car, but if I rejected his offer, it'd only make me look suspicious. I prepared myself and got in. It was really cool inside the car. That car I assume must cost a fortune. At least my father's car doesn't have one. Please let... That was a wrong voice. Please let me know if it's too cold. I like keeping it that way.
So what's this talk about?
Retaliation. I ignored his question and got to the point like he did. He pulled a small notebook out of his breast pocket and flipped through it. He picked out a photo from it. The photo showed the face of a goofy-looking man. It's exactly like Onikakushi. It's like, no, Rena, he's not on to you about murders you've actually committed. He's just here to ask you questions about Tomitake and all that. Please tell me if there's anything you know about this person. The man in the picture was expressionless and looked half asleep. Sometimes you can't even recognize your own family members in a photo where they don't have an expression. So there's no way I would recognize a person who wasn't related to me. But anyway, that was a bit of a relief. This had nothing to do with Rina or her partner. There were scribbles on his shirt, and we found the signatures of students at the school, including yours, Rika-san. We went with Keiichi last time because, why did they go with Keiichi last time? Just like, just like everyone wrote the signature on, you know, Tomitake's shirt in Onikakushi, but if he turned his attention towards Keiichi, maybe because Keiichi was new, and back then when he observed them at the festival, you know, Rena hadn't gone a bit off the deep end, so she disappeared like normal, so he didn't suspect anything. So he probably was like, Keiichi. Oh yeah, that was the reasoning, wasn't it? Because Keiichi's an outsider, so it'd be easier to ask him questions. But Rena's also an outsider, but she was less an outsider than Keiichi, and back then she didn't seem a bit off at the festival, so it's no wonder why he turned his attention toward Keiichi instead. But this time, it's different.
Hey, is this Tomitake-san?
I don't feel his usual carefree, unreliableness from this picture at all. From this half-awake, emotionless face. How about this woman, then? I knew what he was going to show.
Her name is Mio-san, Takano-san.
When did you see them last?
I think it was right after Watanagashi festival.
Didn't you notice anything strange? Anything? Anything, please tell me. But don't put a space between anything and please, because that's absurd.
Did something happen to them?
Yeah, I got it! To tell you the truth, I wasn't sure if it was Rena or Mion.
So you gambled? How risky?
It's just like we suddenly switched perspective again.
It doesn't matter how he won, what matters is that he won.
He somehow turned it around? Oh, Rena, welcome back. What took you so long? I guess it's because we've already seen what, you know... Well, we even saw the scene where, like, after the scene of the crime, whatever, you know, the death of Tomitake, we saw that from Ooishi's perspective, so it was kind of like, didn't really need to be shown, and we've already seen, like, the whole questioning in Onikakushi, so we knew what he was probably going to ask her. So, yeah.
May I notice that Rena had returned?
She looked exhausted. I have no idea what she talked about with the visitor, but it was obvious it wasn't something fun. Rena, are you okay?
What? What's okay? What?
I'm talking about you. You look pale. You sure you're alright? Rena tried to convince her she was fine, but her face clouded over for a moment, and she decided to leave early. I shouldn't have forced her to join the game. I was regretting it a little. and it probably forced herself to play with us even though she wasn't feeling well at all. No, she probably wouldn't be so bad with this if not for the fact that Ooishi had to show up and ruin things as he always does. By interjecting himself into the plot, that's when shit tends to get super, super dark, usually. Like, that's, like, usually the point of where the story takes the slow descent into darkness. Rena put her stuff in her bag, apologized to us for leaving early, and left the classroom.
Well, she's gone now. I guess we have to keep playing until we have a loser.
That's right, whose turn is it?
Me.
Okay, Rika-chan, come on! Who won? Who killed who? In what room and with what weapon? We may never know. But you know who will know? The Higurashi. Oh, first of all, I wasn't very close to Mio-san. I knew who she was, so I greeted her whenever we happened to pass by. But that was about it. I never really talked to her except for the one time. And that time was only recently. It was the day the Watanagashi festival ends. The day I was caught in the act of burying the two corpses by Keiichi-kun and my other friends. Wait, what? The Watanagashi festival. I was caught in the act. What? It's been a day of the Watanagashi festival. Caught in the act. Wait, she ran. Does this imply she ran into Takano-san before she ran into her friends? An unseen scene? I had a phone call from the library that evening, and I was told that my father needed to return the book he borrowed. He was shopping at the home improvement store at the time, so I went to the library to return the book for him. While I was there, I thought about borrowing some books for myself, and I started walking around the library. I saw her there. Oh, Rena-chan, hello.
Mio-san, hello to you too. I didn't expect to see you here.
This kind of has shades of Murakashi a bit as well, doesn't it? Really, I was gonna say the same thing. I always spend time here, and I've never seen you. She smiled in a very attractive and charming way that only mature women could do. Yeah, that imagine a woman sound like that. Just like, what the fuck? Her smile gave no indication that she knew her death was just a few days away. She said that she often met with Tomitake-san at the library. It seemed like she had some time to kill, so she told me she wanted to buy me a drink. I had nothing to do after that. I let her buy me a canned iced milk tea from the vending machine in the library, and we talked for a while. Now, what the fuck even is iced tea anyway? It's like, I remember when I used to randomly watch Bob Ross, his Joy of Painting on YouTube. And he'd always say that sometimes at the start. It's like, get yourself a glass of iced tea, and it's like, what is iced tea? I don't think I've ever had iced tea before. Once I came to think about it, it was a little ironic. She mostly talked about the series of mysterious deaths in Mizawa. She had no idea that she was going to be the victim of its 5th year. Series of mysterious deaths. I mean, this series of mysterious... That's not Rena's voice.
Series of mysterious deaths.
You've heard about it at least once, haven't you? 4 years ago, the manager of the damn construction site was murdered. 3 years ago, the Hojo couple died. 2 years ago, the Furuta couple died. And last year, it was Sanoka-chan's aunt. Series of mysterious deaths have been going on for 4 years now. You know, in that kind of pattern, it makes it seem like it should be like, oh, first there was the dam construction, then the Hojo, then the Furuta, and... then more of then the Hojo. Wait, no, the Hojo family isn't actually one of the main families, though. I mean, Sadoko, that's her family and all that, but she isn't one of the main families. So that pattern doesn't make sense. It's just gonna say, it's like, then the Sonozaki family follows, but that's not the case here, is it? Just like, what is the pattern here? Well, the pattern that has been theorized here throughout these arcs is that it's to do with the traitors that didn't do much to stop the dam construction or some shit. And in a few days it'll be the 5th.
I've heard about it, but you don't know for sure that somebody will die this year.
I do. Someone will die in a few days for sure. There's that old saying, everything that happens twice will happen a third time. So this isn't also true that what happens 4 times will happen a 5th. Mio-san was convinced that the 5th mysterious death was going to happen, but she didn't know she was going to be the 5th victim. That's ironic and also really creepy. There was always something creepy about her. So maybe she knew that she was going to be killed in a few days, but still managed to make that mysterious smile. Series of mysterious deaths in Imizawa. Of course I know about it. I've lived here for more than a year. Every year on the day of the Watanagashi festival, one traitor to the village dies mysteriously. It's been that way since the dam conflict. Each case was solved individually, but mysterious incidents still happen every year. It makes me wonder if there's some kind of will to all this. The creepiness and incomprehensibility of it all gave rise to the name, the Curse of Oyashiro-Sama, which fit perfectly. Despite this, I always thought the Curse of Oyashiro-Sama was just a series of coincidences. My reason for that is because I strongly believe that Satoshi-kun was the one who murdered his aunt on the 4th year. I don't have any evidence, but I just know. Just know it. I know that Satoshi-kun was in a serious predicament last year, and that he had nowhere to return. He had no one to help him, but he had to save Sadoko-chan as soon as he could. Satoshi-kun fought it through and made the best choice. He could have to handle the situation, just like I did when I had my problem with Rena. I stayed informed Mio-san that Satoshi-kun was the murderer on the 4th year, so I just listened to her for a while. According to her theory, the series of mysterious deaths isn't just a set of coincidences, but is instead a series of interrelated murder cases. At that point, my theory was completely the opposite of hers, but I decided not to cut in. You know about the cult of Oyashiro-Sama here in Himizawa, don't you? Dr. Sen started telling me that Himizawa was once called Onikafuchi. She also explained the story of how the villagers were in the old days, showing me the scrapbook she was so proud of. The villagers back then were called man-eating demons, but they were also admired as transcendents, enlightened people not bound by earthly desires.
So according to your theory, a group of cultists who worship Oyashiro-Sama lived in Imizawa and they're trying to show the powers of the god by enacting a series of mysterious deaths, right?
I'm not sure if we should call them cultists or fundamentalists. The line between them is very vague. In an Meiji era, when the name of the village was changed to Imizawa, the customs and the traditions of Onikafuchi were brought to an end. I think there are some people who want to revive those traditions and regain the name and awe of Onikafuchi. Mio-san's theory is more than a little crazy, but it was also fascinating. At first her theory had sounded like she was just jumping to conclusions, but as she eagerly showed me the document she had been studying, I started to think that it wasn't actually too far from the truth. If the theory was true, it would mean that the accidental deaths of the Hojo family in the 2nd year, suicide and death by disease of the Frida family in the 3rd year, and the drug addict murderer in the 4th year were all cooked up. It means someone who has a lot of power and influence over the police was involved. When I pointed that out, Mio-san nodded in agreement, and she started talking about how strongly they were rooted in the village and how deeply they were involved with many public organizations. After she finished explaining all that, I finally noticed that Mio-san was suggesting that the 3 families, including the Sonozaki family, were the masterminds behind the murder incidents. You know, kind of think of it, another one of the main families, the Kimiyoshi family. I forgot about that one. It's like the Kimiyoshis, the Furudes, and the Sonozakis, where the Sonozakis have the most power of the 3. But how would that make sense, though? It's like, oh yes, the 3 families are all behind the murder instance, even though one of those families was the victim of it. In fact, the Sonozaki family really is very powerful. They hold influence not only over Himizawa and Onigashima, but also over the entire Shishibone area. it might not be wrong to say that they even hold influence over the entire prefecture. If the Sonozaki family is behind all this, her theory would be more realistic. But that means I should be suspicious of Michan. No, I shouldn't. But in fact, Michan was very cold and unkind to Satoshi-kun when he was going through a tough time. I know there was conflict between the Sonozaki family and the Hojo family during the Dam Wars, but still she was very cold to Satoshi-kun. It's no wonder why she ended up calling her out in that one scene, in that kind of cold kind of way. It's like, you were just like, you didn't give a shit. But Michan admitted that what she did was wrong, and I forgave her too. Oh, maybe she's thinking this after that now, isn't she? I didn't want to think about that again, so I had to change the subject because I knew it'd make me feel uncomfortable if we kept talking about the Sonozaki family. Was this after or before she ran into her friends at the dam sites?
First of all, what is the people's belief in Oyashiro-Sama all about? It's a little funny that demons and humans want to coexist. In folktales, humans usually try to wipe out the demons.
That's quite true. That's why Oyashiro-Sama is so interesting. However, there are actually many stories that say people in old days worshipped a god that drifted to our world from the land of the gods. It's the worship of drifted gods, in other words. There are a number of myths all over the world about people worshipping a god who came from beyond the sea or from up a river.
The gods in those myths are actually people who came from different countries, right?
That's the general theory, yes. Ancient Japanese culture was far behind that of other nations. When Japanese people in those days saw a foreigner from a developed country, they were so impressed by the knowledge the person had that they started worshipping him as a god. That's one theory. Interesting.
I've heard that Red Oni and Blue Oni were actually foreigners who drifted ashore in Japan because they both got shipwrecked. The Japanese may have created Tengu out of foreigners too. They probably saw a foreigner who had a reddish skin with a very long nose.
It's kind of a similar thing in Africa as well, isn't it? This is just like, and I also think of the Americans though, it's like, just like Native Americans, just like, oh hello natives, could you fuck off, we're making this our own country here, we've got a flag. Just, Rick in history, man. Well, you're pretty sharp, Rena-chan, I agree with you. I think most drifted god worship are based on encounters with foreigners. But if that's so, Onikafuchi's drifted god worship would have a contradiction. Do you know what it is?
No, I don't.
It's easy. Onikafuchi isn't adjacent to the sea.
Of course.
In order to have any connection to foreigners, the place in question must have a connection to the outside world. In Western countries, that connection would be rivers running between adjacent countries. In Japan, that connection would be the ocean. So most of the drifted god stories in Japan originated near the shores.
Isn't there a possibility that the foreigner washed ashore somewhere else first and then travelled to Onikafuchi?
Well, the thing about the worship of Oyashiro-Sama is, it specifically pinpoints Onikafuchi Swamp as the place where demons first appeared. The swamp isn't connected to any rivers, so how could a foreigner wash up there? That's why the mystery of Oyashiro-Sama is so interesting. How much do you know about the legend of Oyashiro-Sama?
I just read a picture book about it in school.
What, they actually have picture books for it? I feel like I know a lot about it, but I actually don't. I just have an extreme fear of the rule not to leave Inamizawa. After all, my life went wrong after I left. It's a pretty intimidating rule, isn't it? I felt dizzy when I tried to think about it further, so I stopped. When everything went wrong in Ibaraki, I met Oyashiro-Sama and he told me to go back to Inamizawa. No, I'll get dizzy. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember. I got desperate because I felt responsible for the divorce. I just used Oyashiro-Sama as an excuse for my mental instability, and I told my father I wanted to go back to Inamizawa, right? But wait, Oyashiro-Sama did come to me. Oh no, the colors are too dazzling. They're too red! I can only remember the vivid color of the pills and the dizziness. That's all you need to know. The demons came out of Onagafuchi Swamp and they attacked the villagers. Oyashiro-Sama saw it and came down to save the villagers from the demons by exiling them to hell. The demons cried and the villagers felt bad for them. They decided to let the demons live in the village with them. Oyashiro-Sama was impressed by the kind hearts of the villagers, so he gave human forms to the demons and let them coexist. The blood of the demons blended with that of the other villagers, as they lived alongside each other.
Exactly what I read in the book.
I felt dizzy, like I was going to faint because I touched the one memory I didn't want to. People say that most myths are based on an event of some sort that happened long ago. What event do you think is the truth behind this myth? Because I was still feeling dizzy, all I could do was tilt my head quizzically. Seemed like Mia-san was expecting that response because she smiled, looking satisfied that she successfully made me confused. You have successfully fried her brain there. She took a scrapbook out of her paper bag. I'll let you borrow this for a while.
Thank you, but this is like Makashi.
Don't worry, just read it whenever you have some time to kill. I want to know what you think about the things written in the scrapbook. I'd like to know, even if you disagree with me, because you really are very sharp. Shiro-san isn't interested in things like this at all, so I appreciate your input. I had little choice but to take the scrapbook. Apparently Mia-san came to the library often, so I figured I could return it to her whenever I came to return my books. However, the day I'd return the scrapbook to Mia-san never came. What's wrong? You don't look good. Are you feeling okay?
I caught a summer cold. I'm still recovering from it.
It wasn't the summer cold that was making me feel dizzy. I always get dizzy when I try to remember the time I met Oyashiro-Sama in Ibaraki. I mustered all my courage and asked her. My memory of those days in Ibaraki is blurry. I know I met Oyashiro-Sama. Nobody believed me and they told me that it was a hallucination. I thought Mia-san would listen to me.